this evening, what I wanted to do was to basically go straight to the point and look at the comments made by Malami yesterday. And let me bring Malami back again.
If you allow the state legislature...
Hey, stuff. Make you know they go. If you they go fast, I know they like me, make it they go fast. Calm down, my brother. Make it they calm small, it they calm down. It they go too much fast, it they go too much. But you know they like me that one. Got you go? So make it ask me this question. I got waiting you talk. Remind me that thing you said about spare parts dealers on regarding the ban on open grazing. Remind me that.
To operate optimally, the checks and balances required.
Why? You look at me. What did he talk? My brother, I said if he operate after marry. Make it listen.
Allow after. The state legislature to operate optimally.
After marry. Kai. Oh God. If they go school, if they call me after marry. Waiting if they have to. What are you after? After marry. Okay. So continue.
And balances required will be there. If you allow the local government council to operate optimally, the necessary development in terms of devolution of powers are there. But once you deny them the resources to operate, the autonomy to operate, then certainly you cannot, you do not have a legitimate right to clamor, to perhaps agitate for any restructuring. So, because you are not a believer in allowing the process to operate optimally in terms.
Waiting. Must you use the word optimally every time? You can also use the word work very well. You must not use optimally. Please, it beg me. We just lost somebody. Don't bring confusion. Please, not optimally. Now, make it a continue.
Of taking its natural course.
So for you, restructuring call is dead on arrival.
I don't even understand what they are talking about restructuring against the background of denial of the other existing structures.
I don't like your argument. It's not making sense, Kazuko. So because somebody is not entirely agreeing to separation of power, which I think, you're right, they should, but that is not a reason for you to deny what your party, what you promised Nigerians that you're going to do, which was restructuring, which if you had done restructuring, all these agitations that we see everywhere wouldn't have been in the manner they come now. All these.
So they also called, that they asked and they said, actually, that they've banned open grazing across southern region of the country. What's your view on that?
Well, it's about constitutionality within the context of the.
Did you hear my English? Within the context of the. I don't forget. I don't know what's the context.
Expressed in our constitution, enshrined in our constitution. Can you deny a right of a Nigerian? For example, it's as good as saying, perhaps maybe the northern governors coming together to say that they prohibit spare parts trading in the north. Does it hold water? Does it hold water for a northern governor to come state expressly that he now prohibits spare parts trading in the north?
But when the...
You see, Oga Malami, see how silly this argument is. Sorry. Yeah, let's come back to normal. So, your argument is not making sense. Spare parts dealers don't kill. Spare parts dealers don't kidnap. Spare parts dealers don't cause mayhem. Spare parts dealers build houses and they live in the freaking houses they build. Spare parts dealers pay taxes. Spare parts dealers build the community where they stay. Spare parts dealers do not get free land. They buy those lands and build those shops, which helps as a catalyst to develop anywhere they are. It is actually, I don't know, it is actually somewhat shameful that I will be explaining something that is as easy as ABC. Spare parts dealers do not engage in that. Spare parts dealers are taxpayers. Again, no one is saying, because the comparison does not make sense, no one is saying you should stop cow business. No one is saying that. The cow business continues, but all we are saying is a question of somebody assuming that every time, let's say for instance, that maybe the spare parts dealers, when they carry engine in keke, for instance. So let's say they carry engine in keke. Biafran Fossam, thank you very much. Let's say they carry engine in keke, right? And it keeps breaking down, obstructing traffic. The government can say, hey, please, we want you to carry these engines because we have noticed that these engines, you use these kekes on motorways, on highways, and it breaks because of the weight, and it breaks down, and it causes confusion. Of course, they have the right to, governors have the right to take such decisions, but they haven't stopped, they haven't said do not do your normal business, right? That's not what they have said. The same way and in the same argument, we saw state government, especially in Lagos. You have Igbos riding Okada, you have Hausas riding Okada, you have Yorubas riding Okada, but because of the menace of engaging in criminalities using motorbikes, they've said, we do not want you to ride motorbikes again in certain areas. And that is very simple. So it beats me really silly to think how there is no connection. There is no connection. It sounds as silly as it, when the CJN was asked during his screening in the Senate, what he's going to do on, when laws get to technicalities. And he's really talking about the technicalities of when you drive an aeroplane. I mean, so that's where the aeroplane driver came from. You don't drive, as long as you're not being, in modern engagements now, it's about the terminologies. As long as you're not using the right terminology, sorry, then you cannot be communicating properly. In this case, sorry, sir, the argument you're putting forward failed, and it failed flat. Like I was saying, I don't even, sometimes, these things just get you so upset that you don't even know where to start. But let me quickly rush.
And this is the solution.
One or two of your calls.
And they felt, look, the solution will be stop the open grazing across the land, stop the transportation by foot of cattle.
If you are talking of a constitutionally guaranteed right, the better approach to it is to, perhaps, you have spoken earlier about the constitutional amendment, is to go back to ensure the Constitution is amended. The Constitution, freedom and liberty of movement, among others, is established by the Constitution. If by an inch you want to have any compromise over it, the better approach is to go back to the National Assembly. Open grazing.
If you do not pay attention here, this is why I always take time to do analysis. I'll tell us this. Maybe many of you probably didn't pick what I'm going to say now. I'll go back a little bit. Pay attention to what he says next. Here.
By the Constitution. If by an inch you want to have any compromise over it, the better approach is to go back to the National Assembly. Open grazing should be prohibited, and see whether you can have the desired, perhaps, support for the constitutional amendment in that respect. But it is indeed a dangerous position for any governor in Nigeria to think that he can bring about any compromise on the freedom and
liberty. Sorry, when I listen to this man, the way he's talking, the job of an attorney general. The job of an attorney general is to be neutral, is to speak to facts, not dance to ethnic or religious sentiment. But sadly, what he is doing in this video, in this interview, is nothing short of dancing to primordial sentiment. Now he's telling people to go back to the National Assembly. You see how God works. And yesterday, he didn't even finish saying what he's saying. A judge, Justice Ojukwu, gave a fantastic ruling that threw what he said into the dustbin. Someone had gone to court before, and he said that federal government lacks jurisdiction. So, make it a quantum that the court, not the federal government, before. Whether or not this too much drink, it don't buy me now. They make me, they go half, they go down, they go half. So make it a quantum mazani. That the court lacks the jurisdiction to hear the suit seeking to compel the president to enforce anti-grazing law. Now, let us see how this is applicable to the argument I am making this evening. Okay? So let us see how this is applicable. Let me quickly pull this. Let me quickly share my screen so we can see this. As we say in Igbo, when you remove lies from the dog, you must show it to that dog, else the dog thinks you pinched. And that's what I'm trying to do. I hope Malami is watching. So here we have court affirms right of states, police, to enforce anti-open grazing law. So here is Malami saying you should go to the National Assembly or that you should go to court. But the issue here is that a court of competent jurisdiction in Nigeria has already upheld that the governors have the right, to enforce such laws. And therefore, there is nothing you can do. So again, this is, it was yesterday, Abariba and Akeredolu was saying that they will meet in court. So now there is no need to meet in court because the thing is already there. Personally, I am really saddened that a minister of justice that should ensure that justice is dispensed equitably, that justice is dispensed to every single part of the federation, because that's why he is the minister of justice for the federation. For the federation. So when you look at that, he's not, for me, in my own estimation, he appears not to be following it. He appears not to be following laid down script for his job. But if I go through this with you quickly, you would agree with me. Let me see if I can enlarge it a little bit so that if some of you can read with me, so it might make more sense here quickly. And he says here, that was yesterday. Yesterday was Thursday. The Federal High Court, Abuja, on Thursday affirmed the right of Nigerian states. Again, highlight. Affirmed the right of Nigerian states to implement anti-open grazing law in their domains. Full stop. The Germans will say, punkt. Full stop, if it's Italian. Might be wrong now. When you drink too much water, you might get some places. You might begin to speak in tongue. You never know. Your people, others might be doing something. You are doing Yamaha, Kawasaki, Yamaha. All of them are tongue. Nobody knows you take the talker. But this position, now, this position they wrote, this position weakens that of the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who had said that such a ban is unconstitutional and infringes on the right of movement enshrined in the nation's laws. The court, and that is where the drama starts here, because it was about Benue State, this is, the court indicated this when it rejected a suit to compel President Muhammadu Buhari to direct security agencies to enforce the Benue open grazing prohibition and ranching law of 2007. Now, okay, for those of us who might be confused here, someone went to court trying to say that the federal government should enforce this law. Now, by delivering this judgment, what the judge, Ijoma Ojukwu, held is that the court lacks the jurisdiction to entertain such suit because ab initio, it says here, the judge had in the judgment also said that enforcement, because in that same judgment, he said that the enforcement, I'm highlighting it here for ease of read, that the enforcement of these anti-grazing laws, having been validly passed by the Benue State House of Assembly, for instance, lies with the state government. Another point number 2. Therefore, it now weakens me and it worries me that this is, an Attorney General of the Federation. Sorry, here, sir, once more, that you ought to have known this. I'm not a lawyer, but at least you can read things and you can comprehend them. But here we are, he's not cutting it. I think I have Ruben Abati with, the Arise crew. That, again, they did a fantastic job. And let me quickly find their video. And you will see where they dismantled the argument of the minister. Really, when I say dismantle, they just demolished it like demolishing a house built with inferior materials. And that's what it is.
I'm under fire on social media for comparing the ban on open grazing by southern governors to the prohibition of spare parts trading in the north. The Attorney General made the statement in an interview while reacting to the southern governor's decision. He said it is a dangerous provision for any governor in Nigeria to think they can bring any compromise on the freedom of liberty of individuals to move around, comparing the move to northern governors coming to prohibit spare parts trading in the north. Abubakar Malami insisted that the ban does not align with the provisions of the Constitution in the context of human rights. Let's take a tweet from Emmy, who wrote, "You guys can go ahead and ban spare parts in the north since you compare trespassing into people's land to legitimate sales of motor parts. Teach your herdsmen how to run their businesses the way the spare parts marketers does, and everybody will be fine." That story of the Attorney General's statement when he compared the ban on open grazing by the southern governors to the prohibition of spare parts trading in the north.
I think that's a false equivalence that he made there. He's referring to Section 41 of the Constitution that guarantees freedom of movement all over the country to all Nigerians, and you cannot be expelled from any part of the country. That's what he's referring to. However, we have a pressing security issue at the moment. Nobody has...
Did you hear that? The section the Attorney General was referring to was a section in the Constitution that talks about human movement. Now, it's either we have elevated cow to the status, to the status of human for us to actually bring these two argumentation into context here. It's either we have done deliberately elevated cow to have human status for this argument to hold water. But as long as we haven't, then it doesn't hold water. So let's
all over the country to all Nigerians, and you cannot be expelled from any part of the country. That's what he's referring to. However, we have a pressing security issue at the moment. Nobody has any problem with lawful herders. We never have. We all grew up with, herders roaming the country. But now we have a new breed of herders that are brandishing AK-47s. So it's kind of disingenuous of him to talk about it like it's just about cattle rearing. It is not. It has taken a sinister dimension. And it would be remiss, actually irresponsible, of Southern governors to fail to act to curb this menace. So I think it's false equivalence on that score. Now, spare parts traders in the north do not have AK-47s. Do not shoot down their customers. If there's some kind of disagreement, they don't kill them.
Oh, please. Somebody watching me should blow a kiss to this girl. No, a woman, not all these boys. A woman must blow a kiss to this woman, because I don't want the one that I'll blow now. Some people in the other room, they will get angry. But you can see how a woman with gray matters in between her skulls, very intact, marshalling out the argument.
Do not shoot down their customers if there's some kind of...
Exactly. Remember how Bakassi boys started? Critical thinking. Remember how Bakassi boys started? Traders were coming from Cameroon, from Gabon, from whatever. So when criminals started invading them, they came together and formed Bakassi boys in order to stop the menace. But here, the traders, they're not killing their customers. So basically, it does not make sense to even begin to do the comparison.
Agreement, they don't kill them, which is what is happening with the herders and the farmers. So it's completely different. And I really like that he would raise the spare parts issue. Whereas when Hizbah goes and destroys the stock of Christians trading in Kano, what do we hear? Crickets, not a peep. And so this is part of the problem that we're facing. This is the kind of tension that we're facing in the country when people don't feel a sense of belonging, when people feel that some are more equal than others in some kind of sick Orwellian way, and people just want to leave, they want to secede from this country. I don't appreciate this kind of comparison to lawful businessmen, comparing them to criminals. Come on now.
Well, that point that you raised about the Hizbah, a lot of Nigerians are saying that his comments are quite insensitive and very tribalistic.
Well, the office of the Attorney General of the Federation is provided for in Section 150 of the 1999 Constitution. And the functions of the Attorney General are very clear. He's the Chief Law Officer of the Federation.
Exactly.
He's the Chief Legal Advisor to the federal government of Nigeria. At the state level, Section 195 provides for Attorney Generals of the states. However, I think the first problem we have with this comment by the Attorney General is that when an Attorney General begins to dabble into politics, it becomes a very untidy situation. And it's one of the reasons why persons have been arguing that we need to separate the office of the Attorney General of the Federation.
I support that because honestly, I think Malami has made it, we had one similar to Malami during the time of Goodluck Jonathan called Andoaka. Whether on Adoaka or I think it's Andoaka or whatever, suddenly defending, you see things that is so absurd and he's defending it and you keep wondering, whose interest is this guy actually working for? But here, God keep punishing Nigeria all the time with
Federation from the office of the Minister of Justice. Because the Minister of Justice is a political appointee. The Attorney General of the Federation is just to focus on the law. So this is a problem that I see here, because in this particular instance, the Attorney General of the Federation, responding to the 17 governors of the South, is crossing the line from discussion of law into partisan politics. That's the first point. The second point, yes, Tundu, you are right, is referring to Section 41 of the 1999 Constitution. Section 41 of the 1999 Constitution does not talk about cattle. It talks about persons. It says every person. You know, and this is without being presumptuous. I don't imagine that I can teach the Attorney General of the Federation law. You know, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria and all that. But with due respect, the governors of the 17 southern states, what they are talking about is cattle going about on foot and disturbing people in the southern part of the country. If I recall, that 12-point communique, there's nowhere they say northerners have been banned in the southwest. Nobody has banned the Fulani or anybody from any part of Nigeria in the southwest or in the southeast. You can go anywhere. But the issue is about cattle grazing. Right. And that's why they are calling for ranching. They are not calling for the ranching of human beings. They are calling for the ranching of cattle. The third point, the analogy, I think is entirely misplaced. You know, on one hand here, look, southerners, the southern governors, they can say, yes, okay, don't even bring the cattle. They will eat fish. There are even southerners who have set up their own ranches, okay? If the issue is about the economic conflict that is indicated. And the people selling spare parts in the north, if they come from a particular part of the country, maybe from the southeast or the southwest, okay, they will gladly say, okay, we will leave. We will not sell spare parts in the north again, okay? In terms of cost, the people in the south, they have an alternative. They can eat fish, they can eat snails. Okay, if you don't have spare parts, how do you maintain your vehicles? How do you replace vehicle parts? So that's why I think that the analogy is a bit misplaced. But what is more important is I would like a situation whereby the Attorney General of the Federation doesn't get involved in partisan politics and just concentrates on the job of defending the rule of law, which is what is important in this regard.
Dr. Abati, your take on this story.
I saw the interview yesterday, full on, quite very sad. The fact that as a nation, with the might and the size of Nigeria and the potential it's got, that our national discourse has been reduced to issues about Maalu.
That is the cow.
Is problematic. Maalu means cow, it's a local parlance for cow. That what we sit and talk about is Maalu, then it's problematic. And when you sense the body reaction of the Attorney General, you expect more from an Attorney General in cases like this. At first, an Attorney General is trying to distort the law. Section 41 talks about movement of persons. I mean, Tunda and Dr. Bati have said it enough. So why twist? Cattle are human beings, except you are telling us that cattle have become human beings in this country, or you're giving them human status.
Exactly what I said before. It appears to me that we are beginning to equate cattle to human. That's the only reason why I can see any semblance of sense in whatever he said.
Sometimes maybe we need to check. Look at the open grazing law. They've had this since 1965 in the north, the Northern Open Grazing Law. That's for the north. But in the 70s, we had the Land Use Act that vests the power of land in the hands of the state governors.
Teach him.
And that still subsists. The state governors still call the shots on the land. In the Rugba case, what is residual should be left for the residual. So why is the Attorney General talking as though there's another law he's quoting from in this country, trying to play technicality with us? And we have seen the signs, and the next thing, you use a very tribalistic slur by saying spare parts.
That was the outrage.
Because we all know that the major dealers in spare parts are the Igbos.
That was the outrage on social media.
But why are you doing this? At first, you've put...
I tell you, again, I'm honestly, Rufai, I can't thank you enough, because this is what journalism is all about. That's why we do what we do, whether we do it on mainstream or we do it on our own. The bottom line is that we must begin to, as a people, enlighten our people, push these things out. I mean, I could not say that better than, that he can just basically do what he did or say the things he said. It's Rufai, you've done a brilliant job.
Very tribalistic slur by saying spare parts.
Exactly, because you know it. You know people who are doing it. They just listen. It's just like somebody, when when there is an argument and somebody says, "Oh, Ashoke sellers," You know, we know things people do in Nigeria. It's just like when someone is saying, oh, Bureau exchange, whatever. We saw them. No one has, the South did not meet to say, oh, we're going to ban the selling of cow. We're going to ban that you don't sell cow, you don't sell yam that comes from the middle belt, or you don't sell tomato. No, they say you do not move them on ground because they, don't. Okay.
That was the outrage.
Because we all know that the major dealers in spare parts are the Igbos.
That was the outrage on social media.
But why are you doing this? At first, you've put forward Ruga. We said no, just because of this same land. To come and collect land from people and call it settlement for Malu. You went further ahead, you put forward a water bill. We said no. Let's cool things down. We all want this country to work. Let's all come together and talk. Let's not inflate passions. We should all be statesmen in the collective development of this country. Nobody is bigger than any other person.
All right, Rufai, well said.
Thank you, Rufai. Well said. I give it to you. Thank you very much. Well said. Well said, Rufai, once more. So people, you've seen that. Now, I'm going to, if we don't finish today, we continue tomorrow. We'll know the time. We'll day here. Okay? We'll day here. So I'm going to bring the
individual to move around.
Come on. Make you they move around.